Hey y'all, this is Devin. Once again, we are here, daily writing. That's what it's all about. That's how we're going to get our books, our magazine articles, our deep thoughts, our insights, our beauty. We're going to get it out on the page, and I'm going to help you write a little bit better. Just so you know, actually, today we are going to be talking about a dreaded concept: how and why to kill your babies. Do not take me literally, but this is really important stuff. This is the stuff that is going to separate you from being a good writer to a great writer. And it's about knowing the difference, and it's about kind of coming to terms with things that we fall in love with, our ideas that just sometimes don't work or don't fit. And if you are with me, it is time to turn up your volume. I am Devin Galaudet of devingallaudet.com, as well as the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler and the forthcoming book, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. So a matter of fact, there's a whole slew of things I want to say about killing your babies, which is kind of like this horrible term, but it was something that I had heard a really long time ago from a songwriting class I had taken with a woman named Harriet Schock, who wrote the song "Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady," and she always kept referring to having to kill your babies, kill your darlings, which I think that was something that came from another writer, and I know the writer, I can picture him, but I can't remember which one. So anyway, this idea is that you write something and then you fall in love with the idea. That's really what it is. And then when it comes time to edit it, we are so in love with this idea that we're not actually improving the story by leaving this phrase in there. I remember one of the very first articles I had ever written was about a resort outside of Cancun called, I want to say it's called Viva Maya. Anyway, it was an interesting little resort that was built into, like, they tried to keep the jungle as much as possible. So there was pathways all around the jungle. And so there was all kinds of animals in there. And there was something called an agouti, which is kind of like this strange, frightened creature, but it's there. And I wrote this article and made reference to the agouti. And I said that it was, and I'm toning down my language because the magazine, or I toned down the language because the magazine I was writing for was a little bit more conservative. And I said that the agouti was proof that a hamster and a pig made love. And I'll be honest with you, I was totally proud of that saying. And by the way, if you have a charming story like that, please write it down in the corner here so I can give it a thumbs up and we can find out where you're at. So I think I went as far as when I submitted the story that I might have even bolded that line, thinking, wow, this is genius. I'm so happy for that line. And the editor wrote back and said, ha ha, great line, it's gone. And at the time, I was kind of devastated by that idea. Is that, and this, we'll talk about this a little bit further down the road, but you either get to be sort of like the master of the domain, so to speak, and you get to kill your darlings first, or somebody else will find them and do it for you. A matter of fact, is just to take that notion a step further, is that for the last 7 years, I've had this title in my head of 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes, which is my memoir, which will be coming out in September. And the truth of the matter is that there is a chance, and perhaps even a pretty good chance, that won't be the title. I mean, it might be like the parenthetical title. It might be the, here's the title and, colon 10,000 miles, but I don't know what's going to happen. And I had to really get into a headspace of, well, but I titled that, and that's the perfect title. And it's whatever it is. It's a good title. I mean, I like the title. But, you know, if the publisher wants to change it, or more specifically, if their distributors feel more comfortable with a different title, if they feel that that's too wordy or too long or too confusing or misleading or whatever reason, they are going to want to make a change. And my job is to change it. So going back to this whole notion, so really what we're talking about is sometimes we write a line and we fall in love with the line. And sometimes the line means a great deal to us, right? 10,000 miles as an example, 10,000 miles with my dead father's ashes means something to me. And agouti being a cross between, or proof that a hamster and a pig made love, is for me amusing and compelling and thought-provoking. But to the audience of the magazine I was writing for perhaps the audience who's going to be reading my book, I have to really be thinking about, well, what's going to best serve them? What's going to be the thing that is going to really inspire them to travel? What's going to really inspire them to read the next story or the next line, or to pick up my book from the 100,000 other titles that are going to be in your average bookstore? So what that means is, and to really, the reason why I talked about To Kill Your Darlings today is because yesterday we talked about the writers group. One of the most important notions of the writers group is getting criticism from the people that are in your group. What that means is that there's going to come a time that when you are reading your pages, or they're going to be reading your pages, they're going to put an X through a line. And that means this line doesn't make any sense, or I don't like this line, or there's going to be a something. And what that means is, even if you disagree, the reason why they're circling or underlining that line as being significant is because it's something that took them away from the story. It took them away from the words on the page, and it should be highlighted. So even if you, let's say, as an example, somebody in your group says, well, why don't you just change it to this? Now, I'm a big believer that we don't actually write somebody else's story. So I would be more along the lines of circling it. But let's say you're with somebody and they do give you, in fact, an alternative line. The idea here is that for that alternative line to fit, or any other line to fit, you're going to have to get rid of that line. And sometimes editing is the harrowing part of writing, where you have to really kind of detach yourself from what it is that you're doing to really go, am I serving the purpose of what I meant to do? So as an example, the story that I was writing was really a hotel review. It was a hotel review in this gorgeous place in Playa del Carmen outside of Cancun. And really what my job was is to sell a hotel experience. So somebody could go to this hotel and have an experience. So the agouti was a part of that experience. My editorialization about where that animal came from, as charming as I think that line might have been, may not actually have been of any use to anybody reading that line. So for the editor, it was easy because there was no emotional attachment whatsoever. That's why they wrote, haha, great line, X, press to delete. And I think they changed it to a cross between a hamster and a pig, which is still sort of a cute line, but didn't have the oomph that I thought it needed. But he knows his audience far better than I do, especially since that was the first time me writing that article. That's why I toned it down to begin with. So when you're working with a writer's group, or when you're working with an editor, it's really important to understand, because right now, my book is being edited, like as we speak. I've spoken with the editor. He said, hey, I'm going to get it out to you, and we'll have lunch, we'll talk about my notes, and we'll move forward, and I'm sure it'll be great. But 100%, I guarantee you, I have written some lines that I really thought were terrific, that he's going to say, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. And if he doesn't know what I'm talking about, then my guess is nobody else will either. So that means I'm going to have to go revisit each one of the lines, even though I love them, and I'm going to have to either take an axe to them, or I'm going to have to rewrite them, or I'm going to have to make them more clear, or I'm going to have to do something. And so that's part of what this whole killing your darlings, killing your babies is all about, is that it's hard, but sometimes in this particular case, when we're talking about words and phrases, it's absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary. So it's something to consider doing. Keep it in mind. It will dramatically improve your writing, because one thing that I have found after going through manuscripts, my own manuscript, other people's manuscripts, is that sometimes these few changes, these tweaks to our sentences, make them come alive and give them more depth and weight and give them more clarity. And the depth and weight and the clarity are the things that are going to keep your reader's eyes on the page and not moving elsewhere. I don't want somebody reading anything that I've ever written and start thinking, oh, well, what do I have to get at the market today? I don't want that. What I want them to do is I want their eyes glued. And so the important notion to take from this is that, yes, sometimes you will kill your babies, and then sometimes there's going to be circumstances like editors and writers group people and even friends who are going to point out flaws or ways that your material can be improved. And I suggest that when that happens, that you go, okay, this is a moment that I have to kill my darling. And so I think that's all we've got for today. I'm going to do, I think, another one of these tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get a guest who's going to help me talk about writing. And by the way, if you are new here, we do this every day. We talk about writing. We talk about writing tips. We talk about books. We have I have tons of writer friends, so we're going to have other people out here. So all this is about is encouraging you to write. And if you want to write, we want to help you do it. And so keep in mind, that's where you fill in the box for your questions. You tell us where you're from. You talk about what's going on in your life with writing. I may do a podcast about it in the future. I may answer your question right then and there, but everybody's going to get a response. And I hope to see you soon. And if nothing else, definitely go to devingallaudet.com to check out some of our other topics, because if I'm doing this every day, there is going to be a truckload of writing instruction. And that's what we've got today. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.